Hello, everybody, and welcome to the HERstory Writers joint book launch. I am so excited, and of course, we just literally went live like this past second, so we'll be waiting for everybody to come on. But I just wanted to first just open in prayer. I think that's an important thing to do, especially because we're talking about people's stories and we are touching lives and we are really just delving deep into people's lived experiences. So if we can just all just bow our heads or close our eyes. If you're driving a car, please just look ahead, and then we can just open in prayer. Father, in the name of Jesus, God Almighty, we just want to thank you for this moment, oh God. We want to thank you for our lives. We want to thank you, Father, for the stories that you've given us. Thank you, Father, that everywhere where we find ourselves, you have taken us there. And even the places where we find ourselves there in disobedience, God, that you are able to bring us back into alignment. I pray that you would just calm our hearts, Father God, guard every heart, Father, and just protect us, Father God, from hurt and pain, even as we unpack the stories that make us who we are. But even more, Father God, I pray that people would be healed through this session and that we would really just have fun and just see and behold the beauty of who we are, made up by every single part of our lives. We honor you, Father God, even for our heritage, for where we come from, because all of it, Father God, is a blessing that you have given unto us. In Jesus' name, amen. Come on, somebody. But yeah, officially, we have started, and I am so happy to have everybody join us for this session. But I'm not going to talk too long because I'm not even the one doing the opening remarks, but one of our directors at Perfect Love Publications is. She'll introduce herself shortly and just welcome us into the session by really just touching on the HERstory element and touching on heritage. And as you can see, I have my dots on. That is my little sparkle and sprinkle of Happy Heritage Month to everybody and Happy Heritage Day for next week. We are so excited about culture over here at Perfect Love Publications. And we are also so excited about your personal stories. So feel free to chat with us in the comment section, and let us know what your story is. Let us know how you resonate with some of these stories that will be shared today. And let us know how you feel about certain elements that we will be talking about as we go, all right? So we want this to be a conversation where you are actively involved. And without any further ado, I'm going to allow Mrs. Kilabogile Boleo Olivier to come and welcome all of us. Mrs. O.
Thank you, Ms. KD Mashile. Am I on?
You should.
Okay,
Now?
wonderful.
Yes.
What a wonderful way to start. Isn't it amazing how our heritage can be expressed and exist in so many different ways? I'm so excited to be here today. So as Katie has said, my name is Kilebogile Ulifir. I'm the National Programs Director for Perfect Love Publication. This means that I'm responsible for the coordination of projects undertaken by Perfect Love Publications, including but not limited to the Perfect Love Youth Literature Initiative. So today, I just want to highlight the importance of sharing our own narratives and the impact that has to ourselves and the people around us. It's so important for us to share our stories in many different ways. I mean, people share stories through song, people share their stories through poetry, through art in many different ways. And today we'll be just celebrating those who share it through writing their stories. So welcome to our HERstory Writers a joint launch. So basically, there are so many stories that we hear throughout our lives. For me, that has largely come from our parents, my parents and my grandparents, different stories about their own lives and stories that were made up from scary guys to making us laugh and find joy in just being together. So basically, that's how we share our heritage. That's how we share our stories. And that's where I have learned much of what has made my character. Much of my values and my beliefs have come from stories that I've heard from various different times in my life. I remember my own grandfather from the stories that he used to tell us, the many lessons that he used to tell us through the stories that he told, learning from our body parts through singing. And I just want to share one of these stories, but I can't imagine which one I could. But yeah, so we learn a lot from stories, and stories mean a lot to us. We identify with the stories that we tell, and the stories that we tell help us relate to other people. One thing that I know is that we cannot necessarily walk in each other's shoes, but we can learn from the paths that others have walked before us in their own shoes. So we do not necessarily have to mimic one another, but we can learn from one another through the stories that we tell. So besides the stories that I've heard from my mom and my grandmother and my grandfather that have made such a large impact on the way I live and make choices, I've also realized the value and really the value of the stories that I get from my own peers, how my peers have made their own decisions and have lived their own lives in their different ways, and so have I, and how telling each other those stories have made us closer to one another and live this life differently from the mistakes that we have made, and the same from the great things that we have learned from the journeys that we have. The stories I hear help me in my career. The stories that I hear help me in my parenting. They help me in building my characters. I mean, the stories that we have in the Bible itself help us in the way we walk our road or our journey in our different religions, right? And so stories mean a lot. And so it is so important for us as young African people to tell our stories, to tell the world, to tell our friends, to tell our neighbors who we are, where we come from, what it means to be us, what we identify as. And that story will not come in one way or through one path, and it will not be in one language, but it will be a story, and it will be our own story. So I'm super excited about today's launch, about the stories that we're going to be hearing about, the books that are being launched today. I'm not only excited for myself, but I'm excited for the future generations that will come and listen to these stories and be encouraged to write their own stories. I'm excited for my son and my daughter to be seeing people that look like them tell their stories so young and be inspired to tell their stories in whatever way they will choose to tell their stories in their future. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's launch, and may we have a lovely time today. Thank you, Katie Mashile, for having me today. This is an honor and such a privilege to be here today. Have a lovely launch.
Thank you so much, Mrs. O. I am so excited that you could come and welcome us, because I do know how important stories are to you. And we will let you go for a minute now. And yeah, I want to hear from the people who are watching and joining us. I can see quite a number of people are coming on as we're going. And I really just want to hear more from you. What are some of the childhood stories that you remember that kind of shaped your heritage? Or what are some of the cultural stories that kind of make you excited about who you are and your culture? I will share my own personal story while I am battling with the internet. Please let me know if you have any issues with hearing us or seeing us clearly, because I am seeing that there's quite like a few glitches. So please let us know so that we can make this experience very relaxing and very rewarding for you. We don't take your time lightly, and we know it's a Saturday and it's family time. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and celebrating heritage with us. As I was saying, my favorite story that I've ever heard that made me so excited. So my surname is Mashile. Every person who is not a Mashile only knows a handful of Mashiles, unless you are from somewhere where it's a very Sutu infested area. So as I was growing up, the only Mashiles I knew were my family and Lebo Mashile. So when I went to Fapaneng, there are these caves there, and you actually get to learn about the Mashile history when you get there. They tell you how the Mashiles came to Mpumalanga, how they actually founded semi-founded the Vapulane culture and really growing from just one or two families. I believe it was the Mashiles and the Mashigos, and they grew from that into the nation that Mashiles and Mashigos are today. That literally changed my life because it not only told me where I was coming from, but it actually also told me that there is significance in who I am, that there is power in who I am, and that as a Tauhadi, I am someone who should hold pride because my forefathers were pioneers. They were, shifters, shifters and shakers. And it really, really has given me so much pride in who I am, and even made me want to go learn my clan names and just kind of immerse myself in understanding Hore Mashileke man. Do you understand what I mean? So let us know. I'm just going to introduce the speakers in a bit, but even before we get into their formal introductions and get into the book launches, I'm just going to bring them onto the screen, and we'll just have a little check in because these times that we live in, it's important for us to kind of check how everybody's doing and where everybody's at. So I'm going to let my speakers in, and we're going to have a conversation. I see that we have lost Miss Seba. I do hope that she will be back very soon. But while we are here, I would just like to welcome Eyethu and Ongeziwe to the joint book launch. How awesome is this? How are you guys doing?
Hi, Dineo and Onge. I'm good, thank you. How are you, ladies?
I know I'm good. How are you, Onge? We're struggling to hear Onge. Are you speaking? We can't hear Ongeziwe. Can you guys hear her? Because I just want to make sure I'm not the problem and thinking that there's a problem. Okay, Eyethu is also unable to hear Onge. Nope, we cannot hear you again. Okay, I'm just going to have a mini chat with Eyethu for a minute. And I mean, this is actually serendipitous in a sense because you are very immersed in your Xhosa culture as well, and you have really sought to understand a lot of it. Can you what does heritage mean to you? Let's start with that. What does heritage mean to you, and how have you kind of expressed what the meaning of heritage through your writing over the years? Too much of a question, but whichever way you want to tackle it.
Okay. Thank you, Dineo, so much for your question. I actually like it a lot. So, what does heritage mean to me? It means that I must know myself not just as an African person, not just as a Christian, but but what I'm supposed to be doing on this planet. It's a very broad question, but it really just boils down to knowing who I am as an African and as a Christian person. What am I doing about heritage? If I phrased your question correctly. I'm also learning about my culture. I mean, I just heard the other day that Amayiha, which is my clan, were actually royalty at some point. So I was very surprised to find that out because all my life I was told that we are commoners. So just hearing that we have a royal background is very interesting, and it's something that I'm going to find out. But yeah, and I'm also just, as I said, I'm learning and I'm writing and just trying to immerse myself in the culture.
I like that. Let's try Onge again. Can we hear you now? Say something. Can you hear us? We still cannot hear. Oh Lord. Still nothing from Onge. I can see what you're saying, but I cannot hear. I don't know. I think we will just try to get to or give back. I don't know if Miss Iba is back yet, but we'll try and get both of you guys back. In the meantime, I will introduce our speakers to everybody. And yeah, and I just really, I get excited when I have to speak about these ladies. And if you know me and you've been following me, you will see that I really hype them up. But it's not even just from a sense of, oh, I'm your publisher, I have to say nice things about you, but it is because I have walked a journey with each one of them, and I have gotten to know who they are and gotten to know their stories. And for me, that's one of the most important things to get from book launch, to kind of understand, who is this person that's writing to me? What do they go through? How do they think? What are their thought processes? And from that, kind of be able to understand where they're coming from, understand who they are as a speaker or as a writer. Do you understand? Like, the most beautiful thing for me is to read a book and hear the voice of the author. It's one of the most incredible experiences that I can ever say that I enjoy. So yes, I am a nerd, but yes, books do make me excited. But first up, I want to introduce to you Eyethu Mfazwe. I want to first tell you how Eyethu and I met. We actually met at a mutual friend's party, and from the first day that I met her, she told me that she was a poet who wanted to write a book. And I find this very important because when I was growing up, I never really had that mindset of, oh, I want to be an author, or I didn't even call myself a poet. And a poet friend of mine said to me, and this changed my life, that as you see yourself, the world will also see you. So if you want to be something, you need to first see yourself as that. So that really blessed my heart when I met to Eyethu, and she was so aware of who and what she wanted to do. I'm going to be reading literally like below the camera. So if I'm looking down, please just forgive me. But Eyethu Mfazwe is a young lady from East London in the Eastern Cape. She's a spoken word artist and a lover of the arts. She is the author of her debut book, Dinethemba, My Hope, My Strength, My Progress, which was one of the first books that we actually published at Perfect Love Publications. She loves writing, and she began writing at the age of 11. Can you imagine? And when she says that from there, she actually tried various hobbies, but writing was something that stuck with her. She started reciting in grade 8, which is about 14 years old, and also started speaking at the I Stayed For public speaking platform in various categories like original verse, and started reciting poetry there as well. And to date, she is still a poet and she's still a writer. And today we are celebrating 2 of her new books. One titled Pursuing Christ-Like Character, which is a 52-week. I know people will read it in 52 days because you cannot put it down, but it is a 52-week devotional book. And the other is Fapaneng, They Dance Differently, which is a poetry anthology that we'll delve deeper into as we go, but it is one that speaks of life in the metaphor of dance. So I'm super excited for you to hear more about it from her and really just learn more about her writing process and who she is as a writer. And as if that's not enough of a mouthful, now I'd like to introduce Ongeziwe Jaca, another author who told me about writing in one of our first conversations. But Onge and I go way back. I know it's so funny that I'm saying Onge and I go way back because I've known all the other authors longer than I've known Onge. But if you know her, she's a ball of sunshine. She walks into the room and you feel her. But if you don't know her, she walks into the room and she's quiet, which is ironic because we couldn't hear her speaking just now. But she'll walk into the room and she'll be quiet. But if you know her, you actually just get to glean more from her energy. And I'm excited for you guys to get to know her so that you can actually hear her thoughts when you're reading her book. But before I get too carried away, she is my closest Zulu speaking friend from the Eastern Cape, but grew up in KZN. She's 24 years old. She wanted us to say that. It's really not me. She wanted us to say that. She's a 24-year-old BA graduate, majoring in sociology and English. You know a person's smart if they have to major in English, because wow, like, why? I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. This is what happens when you talk about your friends on a professional platform. You know what? Calm down. So she studied at the University of Zululand in KZN, and she was born in a small town called Umzimkhulu, and later moved to Pietermaritzburg. Pietermaritzburg, guys, correct this is. In grade 2, that's when she moved there. And until 2014, she lived there. When she graduated high school, she is a lot of amazing things. But one of the things that I'm super excited about is that she's the debut author of Good Girl Gone Bold. Talk about titles. This is a self-help book that really is there to assist young people or women in general to kind of own up to their stories, be humble without being timid. And I'm so excited for her to share that with us. She's an M&E consultant as well. She runs her own M&E consultancy. And yeah, she says that in the future, she plans to mentor young girls and hopefully be able to overcome her public speaking phobia. If you were with us for the conversation, I just want y'all to tell her that she is an amazing speaker. Like, tell us in the comments, like, just so that she can see this, because sis showed up last week, 2 weeks ago, a few weeks ago. If you were not part of that conversation, please go to the Perfect Love YouTube channel, or right here on Facebook where you're watching this. Just scroll down on our videos and you will see the HERstory Writers conversation that we had. And this is the second part of the HERstory Writers Event Series. I'm so excited to tell you about this, the third one, the third and final one, but we'll get to that a bit later on. So, Ongeziwe, Jaca, everybody. Yay! And Eyethu. So next, I would like to introduce Miss Sebabatso Thulo. This is another girl that I will say I go way back with. But when I speak about role models among us, I am talking about the Sebabatso Thulos of our generation. Because, oh, hello! Sorry. Awonke just reminded me in the comments that Ongeziwe is a law student. Okay? Talk about snatching everything and taking up space. Okay, how can I leave that out? My apologies. I'm really sorry if I'm loud, you guys. I'm just excited. I'm just so excited for this, like you have no idea. But if you can bear with me, I'll finish these introductions in a minute, and then we will just get into what you are here for. Because you're not here to hear about my friendship with these authors. You are here to hear about their stories. And the story of Sebabatso Thulo is that I really believe she's one of the role models among us. And her latest book, Dear Black Parents, Dear Black Parents, A Letter from a Child's Teacher, really is a sign or a testament to what role model she is to us. But before I get carried away, her bio reads, Sebabatso is an agricultural sciences teacher. She's a poet, a writer, and a speaker. She describes herself as a womanist, and that it informs all of the projects that she involves herself in. Miss Seba, as she is more affectionately known, is a passionate woman who is passionate about women and building relationships that create safe spaces for people to share their stories. And this has led her into a career in podcasting and entrepreneurship. She's the founder of Healed and Loved, which is a women-only, I want to call it a networking project, but it is really a place where women come together to share their stories and really just share in love and healing. And she is also the founder of I Am Proud, which is an NPO that seeks to empower the girl child. Moreover, she is the published author of a collection of short personal stories and poetry titled Reflections Through My Glasses, What the Heart Sees. And she has recently published, like I said, Dear Black Parents, a letter from your child's teacher. She is also the founder of a video and audio podcast called Conversations, which is available on Instagram and all major podcast streaming platforms. I really, 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 really am excited for you guys to just really meet these young women. I'm excited for you to hear more about their stories. But this one story, guys, like, this is the last introduction, I promise. But I want to tell y'all that when I hear the phrase, it is important for us to write our own stories, I think about Xabiso, Tshabalala, Maqala. Because when I first, literally, and I'm not exaggerating. Yes, I see you, Jubilee, in the comments. You keep them coming, sis. Like, everybody, let's have this conversation together. I cannot be excited by myself. She says it's a super exciting time. I feel it too. Yes. Yeah, man. What lineup you have there, sis? Could you know much? You're like, thank y'all. These authors are quite inspirational and inspiring. But as I was saying, when I first, and I'm not exaggerating, like, if you know me, you know that I don't lie on purpose. So I'm really not going to sit here and lie to you on Saturday afternoon when you could be at the beach. I mean, the sun is out. But when I first read literally the first line of Xabiso's book, I'm going to get it because I have it on my shelf there. And I'm going to read that line for you sometime during this launch. I first read that and I was like, what? I literally felt like we have to, never mind we have to publish, but I have to meet this woman. I have to speak to her. And that is the kind of power that storytelling has. But yeah, Xabiso Tshabalala Maqala is a registered nurse by profession. She believes in administering healing in more than just one way. When she's not on the bedside caring for the sick, she's happily and passionately sharing her poetry, hoping to touch a life and restore strength to someone's heart. Isn't that poetic? Okay. Xabiso also runs an initiative called One Great Act of Kindness. One Great Act of Kindness creates a platform for young, struggling poets to come together and share a stage, but even more than that, for them to share things. So for instance, they will come with like clothes, donating soap and stuff like that, and that will be given to the less fortunate within that community of poets, but also externally to anyone that these poets would know. And lastly, she's a mother, she's a daughter, she's a sister, a cousin, and a friend. And these are the roles that she holds the most dear, her interpersonal roles in people's lives. And like I said, she is an author. So she's the published author of Beautifully Broken, Divinely Repaired, which is a poetic memoir. So she shares her story and she just really strings in some poems along the way. And it is such a beautiful work of art and heart. And yeah, I really am excited for you all to meet all these lovely ladies. I'm going to try one more time to get them all on the screen. Listen, like, we have a teacher on here, we have a communication specialist on here, which is Eyethu. We have a nurse on here, we have a law student on here, we have monitoring and evaluations on here. So we really have a jam-packed session with amazing young women. And I just want you to really just, before we start, because I know it's already overwhelming what I've said, but I really want you to just take a deep breath, think about your own story, think about where you are, and really just reflect on yourself, right? Reflect on where you are and really just acknowledge and celebrate who you are. I want you to give yourself a hug in your room. I want you to give yourself a hand of applause. I really just want you to also just say la, right? And the importance of that is we always pick at ourselves. We always pick at our stories like, oh, I went through abuse, or my mom wasn't there for me, or blah, 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 blah. And we forget the beautiful masterpiece that we've become. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I will try one more time to bring back all my speakers into the room. I see we still don't have Miss Seba. I'll try go fetch her in a minute. So I'll try go fetch her offline in a minute. But yeah, let's try one more time and see if Ongeziwe is able to talk to us. How are you? Oh no. We still can't hear you. But let's take this time and give Ueye to the platform to introduce us to her books and really just tell us about her writing process and what you can expect from pursuing Christ-like character and Fapaneng. They dance differently. So she'll be on stage for a minute, and I promise you, I'm going to do my best to run around and sort out the technical glitches with our other guests. But yeah, enjoy, and the stage is yours, Eyethu.
Thank you, Dineo. I'd like to say good afternoon, firstly, to all of the viewers and most importantly to the writers. So, as Dineo has mentioned, I have two books, which is Fapaneng, They Dance Differently, and Pursuing Christ-like character. So, I'm first going to start off by reading a poem from Fapaneng. Black doesn't crack. They say black doesn't crack, but there's cracks amongst black people. Cracks from dividing ourselves instead of uniting. The words yellow bone and black bone roll off the tongue but discriminate. Unity died when colonization manipulated and rebranded beauty. It's always about being as close to white as possible, yellow being our closest bet, when actually we should be comfortable in our melanin draped selves. All shades are gorgeous in their own way. I mean, it's African butter in all its sizzle. So this is one of the poems that is in Fapaneng. And then I'm firstly gonna start by talking about Fapaneng before I go on to the devotional. So this book is an anthology of poems about topics that society shuns away from addressing, and especially about the underdog, because I'm very big on discussing the issues of the underdog. And the underdog doesn't just refer to competitors in sport, who's favored to win and who's not favored to win. But each and every single person, I believe, is an underdog in a way in terms of what they are struggling with and how society views them. Just that some are more of an underdog than others. So yes, but the positive in this book, because this book is not just all doomy and gloomy as a lot of people like to think poetry is. There's also good things that are being discussed. Like how Africa is just such an important place, and how we as Africans, we are doing the most in terms of just surviving in the day to day of everything that we're facing. So yes, and then so how I came up with this book is that, like I've said, I was writing about the underdog a lot, so I really just wanted to discuss the underdog, because that's it's just something that I really enjoy, and just also I like to give a voice to people who can't voice their opinions because of what others have said, or because they are fearing what others are going to think. And then the writing journey, um how long it took, how was the journey, what did I face and how did I overcome it. So how long it took me about 3 years to write this book, because before I wrote this book, I was working on Dinetemba, and right after working on it, I took a bit of a break. Then I thought, okay, I'm gonna do this book now, because I had so much energy and just I was so excited for the fact that my first poetry book was coming out. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take all of this energy and write this book. And then so I wrote it. And then how was the journey? Um, the journey has been quite interesting, because you have to motivate yourself. You have to do all of the inner work as well while you are writing this book, and also just bearing in mind that your voice matters in this journey, and just bearing in mind that, okay, poetry is not liked as much as it used to be, but still putting in the work because there is an audience that appreciates and enjoys poetry. So yes, and then the challenges that I had to face, um things like writer's block. For those of you who don't know what writer's block is when writers can't pen down what they want to write. And so, it just becomes this thing of, okay, they can't think of what else they can say. So I had to face that. Um, and also just knowing the legalities of writing, because there's a lot of legalities, and just trying to not be taken advantage of in this industry, because it is quite an industry to be in. And so yes, that's also the challenges I faced. Um, and then how I overcame all of them is just doing my research, uh, in terms of legalities, in terms of just knowing, what goes into a book the second time around. And it also just helped that I had already written Ndinetemba and already had experience with getting it published and marketing it and distributing it and all of that. So it helped a lot. And then the lessons that I took from this journey, I learned to be my own supporter, because much of the journey is started by me and much of it I have to finish it as well. Um, so, yes. And then I also learned to write work without offending people, as can be the case when one is tackling controversial issues, whatever controversial means to you, because some of the work in this book, it might be seen as controversial, but I've always felt like nothing is too controversial actually, because what one goes through can be seen as controversial to another person, but really we are facing different challenges. And so I just felt like, okay, I'm just going to write about this. If I don't know much about the topic, I'm going to research it. But I really feel like I said earlier on in the introduction, society just shuns talking about certain topics. So I feel like, there's no topic too controversial. So yes. And then this book, who it's for, um, this book, like I said, can be for the underdog, but also just for people to also be informed about what's happening around them. I would love for the international audience to actually read this book, because there are so many misconceptions about Africa, about Africans, our way of life. So I would just love for them to read this book so that they can be informed. And when I mean informed, I don't mean as in I know everything and they don't. I'm coming from a humble place of just let me inform them in a polite and respectful way, because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we all have preconceived ideas and misinterpretations of other people. So it's also important to inform people in a respectful manner. And then the advice that I have for people who want to write poetry, I would advise people to write what they like, but most importantly, what they know, because it's easy for us to try and write something that we don't know, but the reader will know that, okay, this person is not being authentic. They're just writing about whatever just to appeal to what's trending and so forth. So, yes, that is. Um, oh, another thing, it's also important just to know the difference between written content, how to write for a book, and then for spoken word. Spoken word is just another topic for another day, so it's just important to know the difference, because the formatting is different, the language tends to be different as well. So yes, and then I'm gonna be going to the devotional. I hope that wasn't a mouthful, but yes, I'm gonna be going straight to the devotional, which is called Pursuing Christ Like Character. And it's a 52-week book, but you can read it in 52 days, like Dineo said. And then just please bear with me as I find something from the devotional that's going to uplift you. And when they had brought them forth, they said, "Flee for your life, flee to the hills, lest you be consumed." But Lot's wife behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. This is from Genesis 19, verses 17 to 26, from the Revised Standard Version. Week 20. Looking back can be the end of you. Lot's wife defied instructions when she looked back to Sodom and Gomorrah and turned into salt. She looked comfortable with her old life in the town she knew. We can liken this story to our lives. We have all battled or are battling to make peace with our decisions and step faithfully forward with God into our future. God knew us before we were conceived, and therefore our past actions do not surprise him. And in this prayer, um, which says, "Dear God, thank you for loving me despite past unwise decisions. Help me to make peace with any comfortable feeling on decisions I need to forgive myself for. In your glorious name, amen." And then, usually with devotions, there's a challenge, if I can call it that, whereby the writer is just asking the reader to practice something, just to practice what has just been said in the passage. So the challenge I thought of says, "May you feel led to choose better. Think before embarking on a choice you make. Write down a good choice you make daily." So, yes, and then I'm going to get straight to what this devotional is about. So, this devotional, it's a 52-week devotional. But really, if you're feeling led or if you're just feeling excited, you can read through this devotional quicker than 52 weeks. It's about seeking God in everything you do and striving to be like Him, through the good and the bad. And just a disclaimer, so this book isn't about telling people what to do, but rather motivating them to strive to be like God in their daily lives. Because there's a lot of people like to think that when a person writes a devotional, it's like they know everything there is to know about Christianity and the Bible, whereas that's not the case. Us as writers, we are also humans and we're also just trying to encourage the next person in their daily walk with God. So I just had to put that disclaimer out there. And then how I came up with this book, it was initially written as an anthology of poems. However, I felt like, okay, because it's Christian poetry, I'm not sure if people are going to be feeling it, if they want to read this. So believe it or not, I just like left it on my computer just to be stored in the file folder, just for it just to, be there and not to be looked at. And then, I felt like the tugging of the Holy Spirit telling me, no, you gotta finish that book, you gotta write that book. So before this book, before I decided that this book should be out there, I just thought, okay, I'm also learning something from just trying to understand God daily. And so, in a way, it kind of became a diary, also in the sense that, okay, I'm noting down what I'm learning, as I'm reading through the word and all of that. But we thank God that this book is going to be coming out and that people are going to enjoy it. And then I just wanted to also encourage people within the faith and to look at life a bit differently. And then my writing journey, how long did it take? How was the journey? What did I face and how I overcame it? So, in terms of the journey, I started writing this book, I believe, in 2019, early 2019, so around about January or February. And again, I took breaks because I felt like, okay, I don't think people really want to read Christian poetry and all of that. But we thank God for the tugging of the Holy Spirit to change my mind about that. And then the journey was challenging because I stopped writing at some point because I really was just had a lot of doubt. And then the challenges that I faced, challenges, it's so, coming from a poetry background, the challenge was now to learn about this new genre of devotionals because I knew nothing about devotionals. I had only read some of them, I had listened to some of them. In fact, even in grade 8, my base class teacher would force us to read devotionals to the class. I don't recall reading a single devotional that year, but I'm actually grateful for that because that planted a seed to what has now happened today. So, in as much as I haven't, in as much as I didn't read a devotional back then, but it has now transpired to now me having written a devotion. So it's interesting how God works in that sense. Um, as I said, I'm new to the genre, so I had to do a lot of research. I had to let God write this book because that's the most important part of it is allowing God to write the book because it's not what the author can do, but it's what God is trying to say to the reader. And then, so the challenges, I overcame them by researching, reading, writing, allowing God, and then the lessons that I learned from this journey, I learned to trust God because, as I said, it's not about what the writer can do, it's what God is trying to say to people. Because, yes, He has given writers the ability to write, but He is the co author, He is the one whose work has to reflect through this book. His message is the message that needs to be sent out to the writers and to the readers. So it's not enough just to be able to write, but God's message needs to come through because it's very easy for any writer to interpret a passage or a topic anyhow and write from their standpoint of view. But when God is involved, especially in a spiritual book, then you are actually learning what God is trying to say through you. And then I just also learned to be patient because as writers, we want to write stuff and we want it to come like now, whereas God will be answering me like maybe a day or two later, or even like weeks later to say that no, this is what the passage really means. Now just write it this way. This is what the scripture really means because it's easy as humans to interpret the scripture anyhow and to misinterpret it, which happens a lot. So I had to learn just to trust on God. And then, so as I said, this is a spiritual book. So my intention with it would be mostly for Christians to get to know this book and get to enjoy this book. I see this book as being very fun. It's so fun that I believe that even non-Christians could actually read this book and be like, "Oh wow, okay, we're learning about God in this way," and just to see that the God that they think is God is really just an awesome, awesome God. So yes, and then but this book is for all kinds of Christians. I believe it's for newbies, for the backslidden, for those who've known God since they grew up in the church when they were younger. I believe it's for those who have been in the faith for 5 years, 15 years, for the matured, for the preachers, the pastors. So it's for everyone. And then you know, um, I believe that people will just understand scripture better and yeah, just better because sometimes we go to church and then we think we understand. When we get home, we're like, so what did the pastor talk about really? Like, what did he really talk about? And you try to ask other people, but when you read a devotional and then you see the author break it down, thanks to the help of God, they break down the verse and like, oh, okay, it's really actually not as complicated as you thought, and you just get a better understanding. So yes. So for people who just want to write devotionals, I just suggest you go for it because it's really interesting. But do please invite God in the process because you can just misinterpret a verse, and then the reader gets the wrong message, and then things turn out differently. So it's just important to invite God in everything that one does, and including writing. So that is it from me. Over to you, Dineo.
Oh, thank you so much, Eyethu. That was so beautiful. And I just have to say that it is so beautiful to see you evolve as well. Like, wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. If you have any questions to the people who are joining us, people are just joining us now, welcome. You've missed out on the very first launch of the first two books, which are by you, Mfazwe, but fret not, you can always watch this later right here or on our YouTube page. But I am so excited to hear you talk about these books. I think one of the things that I was saying this to a friend, that one of the downsides of being a publisher is that you see the evolution of the book. You kind of become familiar with the book in a sense, you kind of lose the wonder. And it's so wonderful to hear that you still see the wonder, you still see the excitement. And I just want to, my personal question to you is, how important are titles to you? Because that's one of the things that I can remember from our journey with these two books, that we were working quite dependent on God, but also quite like thinking around what are these books supposed to be called. With Fapaneng, it was like instant, but with the devotional, it was more of like a discovering journey with God. So I just want to hear from you. What would you say? What's the process that you follow when picking titles, and what advice would you give to someone who's like, I have a great manuscript, but I don't really know what to call it?
Thank you, Dineo, for your question. It's a very good question. So the process I follow when trying to pick a title is that sometimes I just read through the work and see, okay, what is the dominant, if I can call it that, idea that happens in each and every single poem or devotion or whatever the story is. And then I try to pick a title from what I'm seeing that is in a lot of what is spoken a lot in the content. Sometimes I just try to even some oh okay, you're back. So sometimes I even try to um listen to what other people are thinking, and it also just helps to write down the first thoughts that I have when it comes to naming a title, because it could just be any random thought, but somewhere, somehow, it can correlate to what the work is about. And I also pray to God, for the title, because that helps a lot too.
Yeah, sure. I'm very excited for people to get these books. So if you want to buy Eyethu's books, I'm going to actually put a comment down below. You can now go order them. I really, really wanted us to have the books ready and like here for you guys to see them today. But if you're following us, they're literally all over our social media. You can also just check out on this page where you are now. You can check out how beautiful the covers look, and it's really just such a beautiful testimony when you see the other side of the book. So the books are ready to be ordered, and I'll drop the link in the comment section. And yeah, go click on the link, order your book. We will be having exciting promotions for people who buy both of Eyethu's books at the same time. So go order them right now, and you may just be lucky. You may just get a weekend special, nyana, because you ordered during the launch weekend. So yeah, I'm so happy for you, Eyethu, and it's such a pleasure for me to see you evolve as a writer, as a speaker, as an artist, and really just grow as a person as well, and how that can be seen through your work. And I'm so grateful that you have trusted us with your art, from your very first book to these two. And I think I have Dinetamba somewhere here. I have it, but it's over there. So I'm going to show it to the people in a minute. And we will reopen orders for those books as well. But we don't want to bombard you. So we want you to buy these books that we're launching first. And then, yeah, like if you want a copy of Ndina Temba, by the way, you can just hit to Eyethu up, I believe. We do have stock of that. But yeah, That's all from me for now regarding Eyethu's books. If you have any questions, like I said, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We will come back and we'll have a Q&A with all the authors. I am so I'm so anxious to see if we can get Ongeziwe back on the stream and see if we able to hear her so that she can present her book to us. Ongeziwe.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes! We can hear you. Sorry, everybody who's on earphones. Wow, go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Finally.
I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
I'm okay now. I was panicking. Oh my god.
Hey, must be see.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask you the question that I asked Eyethu in the beginning. So you are a Zulu-speaking Xhosa person, which is heritagically confusing. So how do you define your culture and your heritage?
I don't know much about my culture, but I am Xhosa. It's just I grew up in KZN and I'm more comfortable with the Zulu side of me. But really, I know more about my Xhosa culture, more about my Xhosa rituals, more about everything Xhosa because I come from a family. So it's just that I'm more, with Zulu people all the time because I'm never home. So yeah, I don't know what to say, but it's kind of a complicated situation because I literally live in KZN right now. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm smiling because the comments are welcoming your voice. We're also happy. Oh, okay. I don't know. Oh, Uti KD, you're so happy today. Love it. No, like seriously, the other week when we had the conversation, I was literally like sitting and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really doing this out of faith. So I'm so glad I am well. I'm so glad I'm alive. And I'm so glad we're finally launching these books. So I'm really, really happy. I won't get, oh my gosh. But yeah, I'm not going to take up much of your time, Onge. I'll give you the stage to tell us how us good girls can become bold. So yeah, the stage is yours.
Please. Alright. So basically this book, Good Girl Gone Bold, is about all things self. It's about developing yourself. It's about being aware of who you are. To become a better version of yourself. It's for somebody who's ready to just be the driver of their own lives, who's sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time, who's tired of being dependent on other people for things like happiness and peace, and basically just somebody who's ready to put themselves first. How long it took me to write this book? It was very weird because it didn't take me that long. I started it on the 21 days of lockdown. Yeah, I literally started writing it that first day when the president closed down the country. I was so depressed because I was supposed to go to Cape Town for an interview, and the country shut down. And I was like, oh my God! I wrote the book during those pressing times, and it was very easy to write it. It didn't take much of effort because it felt like I was talking to a friend. The way I was writing the book, it felt like I was having a conversation with a friend, and it didn't really take me much to write, and it was only 10 chapters. So I finished within the 21 days of lockdown. How did the journey feel writing the book? It was so exciting for me because I didn't know that I was actually going to write an entire book. Even though it started as me just writing about how I would like everyone, especially women, to just live their lives by putting themselves first and stuff like that. But it felt like having a conversation. It felt like I was talking to a neighbor or something like that. So it was very fulfilling. It was a very fulfilling journey. It was also very exciting when I was looking at my laptop and I'm like, oh my God, I finished this book. I was so excited. And I also felt very rejuvenated myself when I read it. I was like, oh, okay. I feel better about the fact that I couldn't go to town. Everything just, I felt better. I felt like, okay, you're going to have other interviews. It's fine. So it was a very exciting journey for me. Challenges. Okay, it's a self-help guide. So I really didn't know how people could relate to it, just because it's more like my opinion. But the challenge was that I was afraid that perhaps people wouldn't relate to some of the things that I'm advising in the book. For example, I'm going to give away too much because you're going to get the book and see and find out for yourself. But there was a chapter that I wrote about being alone without feeling lonely. So I personally love being alone. I've always been alone like all my life. So for me, that's all I know. That's all I enjoy. So I felt like me telling people to start enjoying being alone without feeling lonely, maybe people wouldn't relate, because the people in my life personally don't like being alone. They want to be around people. They're very family orientated. They just, I felt like people be like, nah, it wouldn't make them happy to be alone. So I don't know, I felt like cutting it out, but at the same time, I'm like, no, I'm gonna add it though. I want people to know how it's like to be alone and be happy just by yourself. So how did I overcome this challenge? I sat and I thought of ways of how to put it in the book to make the person understand that no, this, like, I elaborated what I mean exactly. I tried to be more clear as to why I'm saying to you, you should be able to be alone without feeling lonely and depressed. Yeah, that was one of the challenges that I overcame in the book. What I learned from the journey. What I learned from the journey of writing, getting published, and everything, and really like from chapter to chapter, was that from the first chapter that I started writing, I felt like, oh my goodness, it was so fulfilling to actually realize that I had written something and finished it. There's actually a chapter in the book about starting things and finishing it and how amazing that feeling is. So I learned from my own self that, wow, I actually started something and finished it, and the amazing feeling you get from that. It made me feel like there's so much things I can start and finish instead of just thinking about it, just leaving ideas and not actually turning them into actions. So for me, it was a big lesson that, okay, you know what, when you start something, you can actually finish it if you put your mind to it. In the book, I mentioned simple things like procrastinating to do things like washing dishes, for example. Like, when you've been procrastinating to wash dishes or do whatever, something simple, the moment you finish doing that, you feel, I don't know, but I always feel like, oh my God, I've washed the dishes. Now I can go open these law books and study and move on with the day. So I learned things like that about writing this book, from the starting to the end. And I also learned that the words have so much power to change and influence, because my own words that are in the book, sometimes I'm like, did I say that? Because I feel like, oh my God, like sometimes when I feel like, okay, I'm feeling a bit, because I live alone, I'm like, okay, I'm feeling a bit lonely now, I actually go to my book and I feel like, nah, you don't need to go, you don't need a person. Try to find whatever you need from the outside world within yourself, and it works. So I learned that words have the power to influence and change your perspective if you put them to use. And also, most importantly, through this journey, I learned that, you know what, if you believe in yourself, you can actually go very far. Because I have a very low self-esteem, and I really, like, I struggle with believing in myself. I struggle with confidence. So during this writing journey, I actually started feeling a bit, more eased up, more confident, started believing in myself more. And it was great. It was an amazing feeling. And lastly, who is this book for? Who did I write it for? So most people who know me, I'm a feminist. I'm all things women. I'm always defending women, even when I shouldn't. But when I wrote this book, when I finished writing it, I realized that, you know what, this book isn't actually just for women. It's for anybody who's, like I said, who wants to be the better version of himself, who wants to start being more self-aware, learn about yourself. You know, there's things that you need to unlearn and relearn about yourself, how to develop yourself, how to just be an individual and stop looking for answers from the outside world, but start looking for answers within yourself. And to actually like make you realize how much power you have as an individual. So it's not just a book for women or a certain demographic, even though when I didn't, like I said, in the interview 2 weeks ago, I was writing it for myself, and I'm a black 24-year-old. I'm actually 25. So at first it was like, okay, young black women will relate to this, so I may share it with them. But now, as I started like writing more chapters, I realized that actually anybody can literally learn a lot from this book, and it could literally change anybody's life. So there's no like specific gender or anything of that sort. But yeah, young people are usually the kind of people who are ready to take on the next level into changing their lives, into becoming better every day, especially now with everything happening in the country. Everybody's just trying to hustle. Everyone's trying to look for inspiration from everywhere they can. So I think that if you are that person who's like, you know what, I just want to take care of myself, I want to take care of my mental health, I want to take care of I want to fulfill my goals, I want to, achieve my goals, I want to do the best I can to become better every day, then this book is for you. And also, if you feel like you are ready to take responsibility for the things that you have, done, or you just want to change for the better, basically, for yourself, because it's all things self. You will see when you read chapter to chapter, it's all about you, literally about you. And so if you're that person, you feel like, you know what, I want to take care of me, I'll start phone anymore, you just like, you know what, I want to take care of myself now, then this book is definitely for you. And it's not very long. It won't take you long to read. You can finish it in a day. You can finish it sitting on the toilet, really. It's only 10 chapters, and I think it's a great read for absolutely anybody. So yeah, Good Girls. The title says Good Girls Gone Bold. It's because I'm a girl who I feel like I'm a bit bolder than I was before. So that's where the title comes from. But it's a metaphor as well. It's not to necessarily say that the book is for only good girls. Okay, the introduction you will see, it speaks about the author herself, but it's not about, it's a metaphor. It's not for good girls only. It's for everyone. Yeah, I even said in the book, bad girls, people who've been put in boxes, every single person. The book is actually, the title Good Girls is actually a metaphor for whatever box you've been put in, whatever label you've been put in, you are a good girl in terms of the book. So when you read the book, you're going to be reading it in terms of yourself through my words, obviously. So don't be like confused by good girl and what, you don't have to be, it's a metaphor for a lot of things actually. But I'm not going to give away too much, because as you read the book, you're going to see for yourself what the book actually is trying to say, and you understand the title better. So I really do hope that people can learn a lot from this book and grow from this book and use it to their advantage, because it will help. Thank you very much.
So if I'm okay. And then she was back. Thank you so much, Onge, for that. I am especially happy to know that the good girl is just a metaphor for whatever box you've been put in. Black girls, black boys, white girl, whatever it is that you've been labeled as, you can become bold in your shoes. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. And I also just want to comment on something you said, that I was writing about my story and I was wondering would people relate. I have found the most authentic and relatable stories are the stories that people write about themselves. So well done, congratulations. And I'm personally very proud of you for being bold enough to saying my truth matters, even if it's just for me, even if I'm just writing this book for myself or another person that will read it and feel inspired. My truth matters. And that's enough of a statement. That's enough of a reason to write a book, in my opinion. So congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, if you have a question or you have a comment, please don't be shy. Drop it in the comment section. We will be going into a Q&A very soon. I'm gonna release Onge for a minute now. And then we'll come back with all the speakers. I don't know if I just saw, I didn't. I did not. I was about to say, I don't know if I just saw Seba coming back, but I feel I'm afraid we've lost her. And I'm pretty sure Xabiso is out there saving lives in this COVID. So unfortunately, they're not able to be here. Seba was on here earlier, but she kind of got lost. Isn't this ironic that this is exactly the same thing that happened when we had the conversation? But I'm not going to let that deter us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Xabiso's book. Luckily, the two authors who aren't here, their books are actually already printed. This is Dear Black Parents. I'm going to try to do the YouTube thing so that you can see it. There we go. It's Dear Black Parents, a letter from your child's teacher. And this one is Xabiso's book. It's called Beautifully Broken, Divinely Repaired. I don't even know if you can see it. I think you need to do something. I don't know, guys. You will find it on our social media platforms. So I first want to take you guys through Beautifully Broken. It's so near and dear to my heart, this book, guys. You have no idea. But the statement that, oh, thank you. Somebody just told me they see them. But yeah, like I said, please drop your questions and comments about these books in the chat. And in a minute, not in 1 minute, in a minute, we will be having a Q&A session with both the authors that are still here. And we will just ask them any questions that you have. I remember someone in the conversation asked something about how did you know that you were picking the right publisher? And I will, at the end, very, very end, kind of tell you guys, talk you through the publishing process and how all those things work. So please stay tuned. And we have an amazing I just saw someone, so unfortunate that Siva is not here. I have a question for her. You can drop us the question if it is, because we have had quite a lengthy campaign marketing her book. So if I do know the answer to that, I will share it with you. If not, I will definitely send it to her so that she can respond. We will be having a lot more conversations about these books, so these are just introductions, so fret not. We will be talking to her possibly live right here on our page so that you can get to ask her that. But yeah, what was I saying before that? Oh, Beautifully Broken. So I'm first going to read. So I had the privilege of writing the foreword for this book, but I'm first going to read to you the first thing that I saw on the manuscript when I first held this book, or the manuscript of this book. It's on page 15, but it's the beginning of chapter 1. The chapter is titled, Our Love Was Not Enough to Save Me. Filled with disbelief that he slapped me after falling against the wall, I remember the kind of disbelief that came over me, not only at the fact that he had slapped me, but at the realization that he actually took his best shot at it. He slapped me with all his might, and I honestly dropped against the wall. I hopelessly dropped against the wall. This was the man I believed to love me, a man I loved and believed with all my heart that he knew how much I loved him. Selah. I'm not going to read any further because I'm not about to start crying. But, like, can you hear that? Like, That's the first thing that you're reading in this girl's story. But now I'm going to read to you the foreword, because I feel like that is so important for you to kind of get the heart of what I got from this book. Like, after reading that, then I got to speak to her and meet her, of course. When I first spoke to Xabiso, I heard a spark in her voice. She had so much joy about her. So when I started reading her story, or reading further from the first page, I genuinely couldn't reconcile how one can be that joyful after going through so much. And the only explanation I could find was that it had to be the grace and goodness of God. I quickly learned that her joy was a testament of her being divinely repaired by Him. If you look closely, you will see that there is an undeniable beauty in every part of her story. She couldn't have chosen a better title for her book, Beautifully Broken. This reminds me of the Japanese kintsugi process, where pieces of broken vessels are put together using melted gold. As I read through the manuscript, I realize how God does the same with us. He picks us up from our most broken states. He gathers us from the darkest places and brings us up under His light, where He carefully examines our pieces, washes us clean, and then begins to gracefully mend us. In mending us, as you can see through Xabiso's story, He fills up the cracks with pure gold. While it may sound glamorous, it is usually a very painful and lonely process. What makes it worthwhile is that He doesn't take us back to who we were before our broken state. He usually makes us better. He adds value into us and increases our wealth and our worth. He makes us better. And like any other well-repaired kintsugi object, His golden love story becomes what stands out, not our history of pain or brokenness. As you read this book, I pray that you will find healing. I hope that Xabiso's story will be the gold that God uses to fill you up and make you whole again. I also ask that you read this book with kindness, that you read it with compassion and empathy. First, towards yourself. For when you knew better but did not do better and ended up in a state of brokenness. Then to Xabiso, for the risk she took in exposing her scars for others to heal as she now has. And lastly, to all the characters in this book whose actions you do not agree with. May this story inspire you to show others the grace you desire for yourself. I feel like we need a real moment of silence, because guys, I love this book so much. I don't even know where to start unpacking it for you, and it's actually a privilege for me to get to do this unpacking, because it's a book that spoke to me so much, yet I had never been through the things that Xabiso went through in life. Again, I'm not putting words in her mouth. Thankfully, we have had this book published for a while now. It was published deep in the middle of COVID. It was first virtually launched on the day before our first day of level 5 lockdown in South Africa. So we saw it more than fit to reintroduce this book in a new light when people can really receive it and really heal, because I believe even COVID has introduced a lot more brokenness, or made us aware of a lot more brokenness in our lives than we were before. And I believe that this book is timely now more than ever to help us realize that God doesn't, if you can see the vessel on the cover, God doesn't make us look like we looked before, but He actually makes us better. He increases our value. And I love how Xabiso says, Ndili Xabiso, like I am value, I am worth, right? And this really says, but I am worth. I am that which I am better because God has healed me. And of course, I don't want to be preaching the ministry that, oh, be broken so that God can heal you so that you can be better. I don't think that that's what this book is about. This book is about saying, where are you right now? Where do you find yourself? In what kind of state are you? Wherever you are, God can make you better. It's not saying God will take you into situations just so that He can make you better. God will use wherever you actually already are to make you better. So, not to sell the story too much, I'm going to read the excerpt about the book at the back of the book. And I'm just going to leave it at that because I really want you to buy this book if you hadn't already. And sort of the background, children are having a Saturday. But if you haven't bought this book already, please, please, please order it. The order information that is going to be on the comment section is definitely going to include all the books. So just click on it. All 5 of the books are on the same link. So you can order whichever copy you want, or you can order a copy of all the books. Like I said, you may just get a weekend special. So yes, back to this. Let me read to you what this book is about. Beautifully Broken, Divinely Repaired is a beautiful depiction of how God does with our lives what the Japanese do with broken vessels. He repairs us by filling our cracks with pure gold. This book shows us how He picks us up and He makes us better, just like I said in the foreword. This book teaches us the importance of not losing ourselves when losing love in some of the most painful and life-altering ways. It's about strength and finding the ability to walk away from everything you knew and everything you thought you wanted for the rest of your life. Even if it means walking away not only with a broken heart, but also with a virus in your body. This book is about finding hope in the middle of a million tears and finding traces of beauty in your own brokenness. It encourages the reader to find the ability to fall in love again and learn to trust themselves and God every day. The aim of this book is to encourage you to get back up and endure the repairing process. There is beauty that is waiting to be revealed on the other side of your brokenness. Say love. So yeah, guys, I really want you to read this book. Like, I feel like I'm going to tell you everything about the book. I'm going to tell you everything about this book because, like, yeah, so I'm going to stop talking officially about this book because I'm going to tell you everything. Sorry. Okay, guys. That book is near and dear to my heart, y'all. Like, you need to read it. Like, her story is just, you know, like that moment, like when you read the first paragraph, it grips you and it never lets you go until you finish reading it. And the beautiful thing about it, this is the last thing I'm saying about Beautiful Book and I Promise. The beautiful thing about it is that she's not prescribing, and I like what Ongeziwe said as well. She's not prescribing, and Eyethu also said something similar, that they're not prescribing how you should deal with your brokenness, but they are, someone once said that artists are wounded healers, that they expose their wounds so that you can heal. And the more beautiful thing about Xabiso is that she has taken the journey of healing. So she's not just opening her wounds up to the world, but she's showing you scars that are evidence to say, I've healed from this. I've healed from this. I've healed from this. And God can do the same for you. That's, for me, that literally sells the whole book. And now talking about healing again, we have Dear Black Parents. I saw the question that was directed to Seba, but I will attend to it. Oh, also, I can see very well, so please forgive me if I'm very close to your face, because I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see the comments. So I will not say bad things about myself. Like, who can't see me? I can see well, very well. So she said she wanted to ask her what made her but write the book about parenting, yet she's not a parent herself. Actually, I will address that now. So Seba wrote this book from a place of a child and a teacher. So she, if you've read Reflections, this is her first book. Oh, Lord, there you go. If you've read Reflections, she shares her story of the child in this book. I don't know if that makes sense. So she shares how she grew up in boarding school. I believe that's in her introduction as actually. So I'm just going to read the introduction to answer that question and to kind of let you know what the book is about. But she grew up in boarding school. She was an only child, is an only child. So she wrote from a place of understanding the children in her class as herself, or because of her own story, she kind of gets the children in her class. And she had also gone through, when we were sharing her book quite a number of days ago in build up to this, I quoted something she once said, that sometimes as young people, we have to, as young Black people, we have to heal from traumas that were caused by relationships with our parents without our parents. I'm going to say that slowly. So sometimes as a Black child, you have to heal from traumas that were caused by your relationship with your mom, for instance, without your mother's involvement. So she had to go through a journey of healing from maybe feeling abandoned by being sent to boarding school, or feeling like she was expected to kind of fend for herself and be the good girl, as Ongeziwe was saying, all by herself. And from that place, she then learned certain traits, and she learned certain I don't want to say coping tools. She built certain tools that she thought, oh wow, what I went through as a child, or how I perceived my parents as a child, is exactly how these children in my classroom are perceiving their parents, and it's exactly how they are going through life. It's exactly how they are, not exactly in a sense, but it's similar to how I went through life. So from that place, because now we are the parents of the children in the class, she was saying through this book, dear Black parents, here is a letter from your child's teacher, who not only understands where you're coming from, but also understands how your child is perceiving what you do and what you say. I hope that answers the question. But she has had quite a number of conversations on this. So you can also just go on her Instagram. She has had a lot of Instagram lives conversation around the book. So you can go on her Instagram at Miss Thulo, that's MS Thulo, Thulo, and you can really just listen more to what she has to say about the book. She has addressed that quite a bit, but also just to say that usually we want to go through processes and we want to go through journeys when we are in there. So we want to be practical learners, when actually it is better to heal as a child first before you have kids of your own and kind of subject them to the experiences that you had. And honestly, as educated as we are, as smart as we are, we don't really get our parents fully. We don't always see our parents. This is me, by the way. We don't always see our parents as individuals. I think for me, what healed me in my relationship with my mom, for instance, was sitting and looking like at her from the outside, and not as my mom, but looking at her as a human being, and looking at her life experiences. Gosh, if I went through half of the things my mom and my grandmother went through, I wouldn't even be decent. Like, never mind a great woman, a great mom, a great grandmother. I wouldn't even be a decent human being, because I don't know if I have the tools to carry all the weight that they've carried. So I believe that's also another thing about this book, to say, heal, find healing, but also understand the humanity of yourself as a parent, right? See yourself as a parent, as human, but also the child that's reading the book, see your parents as human. And when you come on that level ground of humanity, that's why that's another thing that I absolutely love about Xabiso's story, is that her story puts everyone on the ground of humanity. It puts people, it makes you realize, and that's the common thread, actually. That's what literature does. That's what the devotional that Eyethu wrote does. That's what Good Girl Gone Bold does. It says, as a person, level yourself. I am human. I've gone through these things. I have these struggles, but there's a future. There's a better, right? There's a better on the other side of where I am. How do we get there? And that's where we find this book. So that was a very long way of answering that, but I'm going to read the introduction to the book. Yeah. So I'm going to read the introduction. I hope this is where she speaks about it, but I hope it's going to kind of give you an idea of what the book is about if you also haven't already read it. Here goes. Dear Black parents, I wrote this book for you. I know that you have good days and bad days in your personal life and in your parenting. I know that you are trying to be the best parent, and sometimes you find yourself having to do it alone or with very little to no help. I know your life is hard and you have your own personal issues that you do not always have answers to. Even the simple courage to face your issues sometimes runs out. I know that maybe you didn't plan to be a parent when you became one, and nobody sat down with you and taught you how to be a parent. And if you did plan, nobody really prepared you for how strange and challenging the journey would be. Never mind how much it would require of you. You are just figuring it out as you go along. Sometimes you wish you were still being parented instead of being the parent. I know. I know that in some cases, you don't even like the person you had a child with, and they keep letting you down. And you wish you could change it. Some days, you are not sure of what you are doing or who you are anymore. Some days, you wish you could start again. I know. Other days, you wish you were more than what you are and that you could give more than you are giving, which is hard for you. It keeps you up at night and on your knees. I know. I want you to know that you are not alone, that there are many other parents who feel all that you feel. I promise you, it's not just you struggling. It's not just you with the fear of being a failed parent. I wrote this book for you. I wrote this book with you in mind, with all that it means to be a Black parent from a Black background and all our Black issues. I wrote this fully aware of our Black insecurities, our Black customs that we can't always question, and our Black power that exists but only a few really experience it. I wrote it so that you could get the most out of your relationship with your children. My intention is for you to see the gap and the hindrances that might exist between you and your child. It might feel at times that I am judging you and that I am in your personal business. You might get angry at me and roll your eyes. You might want to walk away from this book, and that's okay. But I want us to heal. I want us to have family bonds and connections that are eternal. It is my desire and the cry of my heart for Black families to be functional and healthy, regardless of the system that continuously tries to take this away from us. I am holding your hand and I am hugging you as you read along. Again, I am not judging you. I am helping you. I am teaching you. It will get personal. It will get scary, but you can start again, always. And when you start to feel guilty, I want you to forgive yourself, because had you known better, you would have done better. You can only do what you know how to do, and you can only be what you know how to be. This book has letters that are lessons and poems that were written just for you so that you can heal. After each letter, there's a healing point. This is my suggestion on what you can do to heal. Your healing is important. It changes our Black story completely. This is Dear Black Parents. So I hope that after that you kind of get an idea of why it's Dear Black Parents, and you get why she was writing. And I feel like she wasn't writing about parenting, but she was writing to parents. I think those two things are important to differentiate, because if you're writing about parenting and you're not a parent, people can have roadblocks. They can block you out. They can build walls to say, who are you to tell me about parenting? You've never experienced it. Like, where do you get off telling me how to raise my child? But she's not saying that. She's saying that I spend time with your child every day. I see what your child is going through. I see how your child interprets your relationships. I see, and there's a chapter where she talks about your words build your child's vocabulary. So I see how the words that you say become conversations for your child, right? So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on the screen because you guys did not come here to see me. Okay, so I'm going to bring our authors back, and again, I'm inviting you, drop your questions in the comments. We will have a quick Q&A, and then we will bid our authors farewell. And there's just an exciting announcement at the end, and I'm also just going to take you through the publishing process. So if you want to publish a book and you don't know how it goes, so I'm just going to briefly tell you about that at the end. But yeah, we're nearing a close. But yeah, I'm going to let my guests back in. And we'll just also let Mrs. O in to kind of share her thoughts and share what what she's picking up from this conversation. So what are some of your thoughts about the books in general? You can tell us about your own book. You can tell us about any of the other books that we've spoken about. So what are some of the conversations that are starting to spark in your head as you think about this? I'll throw the question to Eyethu first.
Can you please repeat the question, Janelle?
I'm saying, what are some of the thoughts that are coming to mind, bearing in mind that the theme of this joint launch is HERstory Writers. So essentially, we are looking at how the stories that we are writing today will form the fabric of what history will say about young Black women, or what history will say about poets, what history will say about us, right, in our individual capacities. So what are some of the things that are sparking? What are some of the themes that you are picking up in terms of the HERstory, or the history that we are writing through these books?
Okay, thank you for the clarification. So hopefully today, I believe today's session, book launches, will inspire people to know that it's important to write their story, because no story is less important than the next person. So I just hope that people from the future as well will see that, okay, they wrote about their story. This is how they can improve on what happened all those years ago and how they can take things forward.
I like that. It's actually now creating a narrative that they can build on, essentially. So yeah, I like that. Onge, what are your thoughts as I read these comments and gather the questions from the chat? Oh, we've lost you again. I don't know if it's not your earphones that are kind of going on and off. We've lost you again. Are they connected? Please make sure for me that they are connected. Because we aren't. Can you hear us? Like, thumbs up, thumbs. Wow. Try speak again. And we lost her. Please do what you did the other time when we had lost you and you came back. But Mrs. O, this from the outside looking in, I feel like because I work so closely with these authors, and I saw your comment on how like I'm able to articulate their stories, but it's because I've immersed myself so much into their stories. But from the outside looking in, what are some of the things that you're picking up, and what are some of the thoughts that you have when thinking about how this will influence history or HERstory?
I think one thing I have to commend everybody on is their courage. There's really so much courage in writing your story so vulnerably that, as one of you guys said, that it doesn't attack anybody, blame anybody, or hurt anybody in writing your story. So well-written, beautiful stories that are our truth. Also, so not writing a story that is a fairy tale, but writing our truth as human beings that go through these experiences, learn from them, fall again, and have to get up. So not making it
Yeah.
seem as if that you just slid through the process and it just happened, but that things had to
Yeah.
happen to get you to a positive place, to get you to a place of healing, and a place that you can narrate your story in such a way that it doesn't blame anybody in that same situation, or even bring expectations upon people that are in those situations, those times, to be anything greater than what they are and what they're going through. But I do have questions, if I may. It's quite a lot of
Not
questions.
yet.
Can I?
Actually, before you ask your question,
Mhm.
Lebu, I call her Lebu. I hope that's okay, Lebu, to call you Lebu. But she's the one who asked about the book about Seba's book, Dear Black Parents, and it being written by a person who doesn't have a kid and writing to parents. And she's saying that she feels a bit more comfortable now buying the book because she just wanted to understand like what was the rationale. But as a person who does have children and is raising them in this climate, what are your thoughts about even what I shared about the book being written to parents and not for parents in a sense? How are you open to receiving the message from a person who doesn't have a child yet? Like, please give us the perspective of a mom, because
um,
all of us.
um, yes, absolutely. The way that's what I meant. Siba is writing it in such a way that she's not blaming parents. You understand? She's
Yeah.
understanding that it is a process, and many of us do go through those processes. I mean, when I look at my own parenting and I look at the way my mom parented me and my grandmother parented us, there's a huge jump, and there's a lot of healing that has to happen through generations in order for us to become better parents. And that healing comes with conversation. And for many of us, those conversations only happens once the kids are already here. So we are learning through the process. All Siba is doing is saying, recognize that these things exist now, so that when you are parenting, you know that they are there and that you can deal with them. For me, parenting exists in many different ways. My grandmother parented me as a grandmother, but as a mother. My mother parented me as my mother. My teacher parented me in ways when I was at school. My aunts parented me. So the basic definition of being a parent is related in different ways. So Siba, in being a teacher, is a caregiver. And largely, like, she has our kids most of the day. So to hear from her is actually enlightening, refreshing, and educational in my journey as a parent as well. My kids are not yet in formal schooling, but I can already prepare for that based on just the information that she says in her book. Even welcoming the fact that I'm not perfect, we never are, but welcoming that fact and being able to say that sometimes that imperfect being in me is due to my own experiences, hurts that I never really understood, and how I'm even expressing those towards how I parent my children. So I, as a parent, welcome this book and love it. I absolutely love the idea and the way she has written it with such grace towards us, towards our children, and towards teachers in the future as well.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. Like, ooh, I don't know if I'm the only one who felt that, but Lebu also attested she's not blaming parents. Heart emoji. I'm actually gonna let you all see that comment on the screen. Like, oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Mrs. O, for that insight. I think it's always important for us to kind of, have these perspectives, because we also don't want to be prescribing dealing if that makes sense. We don't want to prescribe how people should deal with their situations, but in sharing, there's a very well-known quote by Marianne Williamson, I think. She said that as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And I think that's essentially what authors do. They give permission. I always like to say that poetry gives a vocabulary for other people to express themselves. So yeah, thank you all so much. But I also just want to ask Onge this before we jump into the questions. Mrs. O is also going to ask you all some questions. But I want to ask Onge this. You mentioned that you're a feminist, and having read just a snippet out of Xabiso's book, some people would say, oh, but women are always just, it's the victim mentality of women. Or some people could even use it the opposite and say, oh, Imbogoto, she healed. You know what I mean? So how do we protect? And I think this is something that I'm struggling with. Like, I've been writing my next book for a while now, but I always feel like, oh, people will read this and they'll say, oh, you know what I mean? So how do we protect ourselves or protect our stories or protect the narrative? Because that's the most important thing. How do we protect the narrative about Black women when we are telling our stories?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We just can't see you so well.
Then
Maybe try and sit back. Oh. I also can't wait for Good Girl Gone Bold. Carmen says that she can't wait. And I'm just going to read yet another comment from Lebu. She says, I can't see that. I can't see that far. I choose not to. She says, the fact that Seba is a teacher gives me more confidence because I know for myself that I was not always the same child at school that I am at home. And children are sometimes more expressive with their teachers than they are with their parents and around their peers. Absolutely sincere and free. So true. I don't know if Onge is still here. Ongeziwe. Do you want to tackle that, to that question? Is it something you're comfortable answering? Because I really don't want to put you in a spot. But I always just wonder from like authors' perspectives, how do you, when you write, oh, she's back. Are you back? If you're back, say I. Because when you're writing, especially also writing as a Christian, right? It's not necessarily just now I'm writing as a woman, but I'm writing as a Christian woman. So I even have a more burdensome responsibility to protect the faith, if I can even put it like that. So how do you process that I need to protect the narrative about the faith or about women and also be authentic? How do you strike that balance?
Thank you, Dineo. This is a very tricky question, but I'll try to answer it. How I try to protect the narrative between like being a woman and being a Christian, or just being a writer and being a Christian. I just try to be authentic because, like, I think you said it, if not anyone else, that it's important for people to be authentic, because when you're not being authentic, then people can pick it up and then assume otherwise. So I just always try to write from an authentic place and from a humble place, because like Siskele said, no one is perfect. And so, people relate more to vulnerability than to perfection. So, yes.
That's simple and straight to the point. Very true. Wow. Okay, I'm going to give over to Siskele and have her ask her questions that she has.
Actually, Dee, you can also answer these questions since you also yourself are a published writer. So basically, when I was listening to you guys, especially around, and I'm sad that Ongeziwe is not here because one of the questions really relates to her. So the first one is, how do we reinterpret how a day like the 24th of September, which is meant to be Heritage Day, what it means to us in South Africa in this largely westernized society that we have become, and what it will mean for 10 generations from now? How do we take it away from Bride Day with our African printed t-shirts with a bev? How do we start reinterpreting that? Can I ask the other one? Okay, so these ones relate to one another.
You want to answer that first? Eyethu?
Okay, I was actually going to ask Dineo to go first.
Okay. I think Onge is back. I'm gonna try to bring her back. Um, okay. So while she's setting herself up, I'm gonna try and answer it. I was asked yesterday to share on that topic on some platform, and I was saying this is what we're doing, right? This is what we're doing differently. We are highlighting our stories, but we're also documenting them. So for me, like the only way for us to preserve our history is not to talk about it. We saw how that was beautiful for our forefathers, but it also backfired. One of the inspirations for the theme HERstory Writers is now my favorite quote of all time, by Fred Kumalo, I believe. He said that if you don't write your own story, someone else will, and they might just mess it up. And it ends up by saying, our story has been eaten by his story, which is actually what history spells, right? So for me, the heritage kind of covers culture, it covers lineage, it covers celebrations, but it also covers stories that I think should last forever. And the only way for us to make sure that our stories last and that they last correctly is by documenting them ourselves, either through vlogging, podcasting, writing books, creating music, but we can't just braai and look pretty and drink a beer, like you said, and think we're celebrating our heritage. How is that going to translate to your daughter? How is she going to know? You understand, like the stories of your grandmother. So I think it's important for us to start being more intentional about preserving our stories than just talking about them. Yeah. Welcome back, Oge.
Absolutely, Eyethu.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear you.
and
Yes, we
see
can.
you.
I believe that teaching is one of the best methods to, to honor the 24th of September, not just as Pride Day, but as actually appreciating our African heritage. The reason why I say teaching is because so much gets lost when people are not taught, okay, this is what the culture is about. This is how one acts as, as whatever type of culture they're part of, because it's just easy for people to go and collect ideas from the media, which doesn't always portray everything correctly or in a good way. So I just believe that teaching people, okay, this is the culture, this is how things go, so that we can teach others how things were done, and so forth, so that the cultures don't get lost, so that languages don't get lost. And like, there's nothing wrong with people wanting to interpret Heritage Day however they want, but cultures do need to be taught, because at the end of the day, there's more to life than just Bride Day or just spending the day wherever you are, but it's more of, keeping the cultures, how can I put it? Just keeping the information that you have so it can be related to others.
Cool.
I think we have time for like one or two more, Mrs. O.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask the follow-up to that. So I wanted to know, from a feminist perspective, how do you, as a feminist, navigate yourself and still preserve your cultural values as a woman in this narrative, in this place, in the space that we're in right now? So being a feminist, but also preserving your culture and your beliefs and your heritage, and still identifying, for instance, as a Black woman, a Xhosa woman, a Zulu woman, a Pedi Tswana woman, with all those values still in you.
Okay.
I'm curious to
Well,
hear
it's hard.
Ongeziwe.
You can hear me now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. It's really hard. I'm not gonna lie. It's very hard because sometimes you challenged. Sometimes you even challenge your own self. But I always remember my values. I wrote a whole chapter about values in my book. So I always remember my values and why I have those values and why do I value those values, and I just go with that. Like it can be complicated, yes, but it's all about your beliefs and what led me to being a feminist in the first place. And if I keep reminding myself of my why as well, then become that difficult or that confusing. But it's really about what I value the most and what matters the most to me. And I just go with that. Hence, I don't really like to be out there and speaking about these things because it can be confusing and it can confuse you yourself. So I always remind myself of what do I value as an individual. I like to put myself as an individual, and that's how I navigate through it all, just by reminding myself of my why, and that way I can focus on that and only that.
If I can
That was
jump
for all
in, I
of
don't
you
know if
guys.
you guys understand. No, I was very curious to hear Onge's thoughts first. But if I don't know if I'm talking while people are talking. I'm kind of missing. But anyway, if I can jump in on what Onge was saying, I think for me, the reason why I still hold on, in this past week I've been battling with the title feminist. Do I want to keep that on my Twitter bio? That was my real life crisis. But why I wanted, because I first said I put Christian before feminist, and it always starts conversations on Twitter with for me like, oh, I see you're a Christian feminist. Let's talk about that. But for me, what's important is understanding that feminism isn't about women lording over men or women wanting to be men or wanting to be like men, but it's about humanity. And I think when we narrow it down to it's about women, we lose the fact that feminism is about humanity. It's saying that women are human. And my being Betty and Tsonga and Christian and black and young or middle quarter aged, all that is components of my humanity. And if you can see me as a human and respect me as a human, then we can unpack everything else. If my Christianity is against humanity or if my culture is against humanity, then we have a problem. So it's not even about me being a woman. If I was Asian, I would think about my Asianness as the face of my humanity, and therefore I would care about Asian matters. Not to say I don't care right now, but it's not my narrative. But when I meet an Asian person, can I see them as human first? Can I respect them as human first? And then from there unpack the intersectionalities of their identity. Yeah, that's just all that I had to say.
For
No
me,
pressure.
okay, thank you. I wouldn't say I'm a feminist because there's a lot that goes into what it is, but I do believe that as a woman, there's more to it than just being a feminist or holding a title. It's about who you are as a person. Like Janelle said, it's about humanity. I believe that just because you are a feminist or whatever title you believe was made to be doesn't mean that that's all there is to you. I feel that there's more than that. If you can be an individual and just not conform to what society tells you to do, then I think that you're on the right journey and I think you are doing well despite whatever title you have because as people we are multifaceted, but there is like a lot more to a person than meets the eye or to whatever titles they decide resonates with them or whichever groups they decide to be a part of.
Thank you,
Okay.
ladies. I won't ask any other questions. I see we're running out of time.
Yeah, I thought you would be worried about time. I was like, let me see what she says. But oh man, thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you to Miss Siva and to Xabiso as well for lending us their books to humanity as well. And I really want to thank you all for just pouring out into the world and really not even knowing how people will receive what you write, but taking that vulnerable step and taking that bold step also to just say, this is who I am. And I hope who I am can help you be better at who you are. So thank you so much. And also many, many thanks to Mrs. O, Oskele, or Sis Kelly. I am definitely going to change what I call you from today on. But thank you so much for taking the time to take us through the Q&A session, and also for just sharing the importance of stories with us. You really set the tone and set the bar quite high from the very beginning. Thank you to the whole PLP team for making this possible. So yeah, I'm going to give you all literally like 1 minute each to kind of share your parting shots. Then I'll share the announcements. Then we'll be gone. Oh, I didn't forget. I will share a little bit about the publishing process. Then announcements. Then we'll be gone. But yeah, any parting shots from any and all of y'all?
Okay.
Okay,
I'm just gonna say.
Okay. Let me just
Yes.
Okay, I'll speak. It's fine. My parting shot is that, as a person, we're all multifaceted, but you can be the best version that you want to be whenever you want to be, and you don't have to stick to one thing. If you are nonconformist, you can do that, and you can let that reflect in your writing. You can write however you want because there's no formula to writing, and you can just do whatever you want and just express yourself though authentically through your writing and through all the other things that you do.
Thank you. And Onge?
Can you please repeat the question? I'm struggling to hear you, like the side, honestly. I can hear you, but can you just repeat again? I struggled the first time.
I was just saying, what are some of the parting shots that you want to leave everyone with and the possible readers of your book?
Come again? You're breaking up.
What are your parting shots? Last words. Okay, let's go to Mrs. O, then we'll come back to Onge. I'm going to put it on the chat for you. And Mrs. O?
Well, I want to congratulate all the authors. Really, you guys are doing an excellent job. Those that are here and those that are not. I also want to say, Ongeziwe said something about what it means to complete a work that you have started and what that actually means. And I thought that is one skill or one characteristic about a person that is so valuable. I see it in my own children. Like when they finish something they've started, they get so excited. It really builds you. So be in that space where you know that you are able and you are capable, and walk your own walk. Don't walk somebody else's journey. It's not yours to walk with. So run with endurance the race set before you, not the race set before somebody else, the race set before you, because that is your race. That is the purpose for your life. So walk your walk. And thank you very much for having me. Yeah, wonderful launch.
Thank you. I don't know if Ongeziwe is with us now. Can you hear me?
I'm hardly hearing you guys. You guys are breaking, so I can't really hear. I can't hear you guys. So I don't know what is.
That's quite unfortunate.
Also, I don't know why.
Is okay. I'm just going to then let all of y'all go. I'm going to ask the authors when they are available, and we'll really just have individual chats with everybody so that you can ask all your questions, get to know more about their books. I know the 10 to 15 minutes they each had to introduce their book was really not enough. I really, really, really am excited for you all to read the books as well. I'm going to ask. Actually, I'm going to do that just now because I've been saying that I would do it. Just put on the chat the link for you to, what's this? I cannot multitask. That's another stereotype about women that people need to lose. But yes, so that's the link. It's on your screen now. If you want to order any of these books, please click on that link. Like I said, I'm feeling so happy today. Oh, okay. Noticed that earlier. And because I'm this happy, I might just do nice things for you if you order the books this weekend. Don't tell the authors I said that. You don't want them to think we're messing with their money. But anyway, I really, really am excited for you all to read these books. I'm excited. Those who have read Beautifully Broken and Dear Black Parents already, let us know what your thoughts are. Leave us a DM, mention in the comments what your experience was with reading the books. I really, really would like to know more about your thoughts. And I know we literally like 3 minutes over time now. The program was supposed to be 2 hours. Now we are like 2 hours and 3 minutes on the program. But I just want to also answer the question regarding publishing, because that's something people always struggle to figure out. Like, when do I approach a publisher? Which publisher do I approach and everything? But what I know for a fact is most publishers will not turn you away without giving you proper advice. So the first place to start, if you're looking for a publisher, I would even say Google publishers near me or publishers in my area. It's better for you to work with a publisher that you can work with physically. But if you do find a publisher that we, for instance, Perfect Life Publications works very much virtually with our authors, but we try our best to build a relationship and really just build understanding so that it is your story. I always say to our authors, when I first speak to an author, when a person approaches us first, I want to go and get on a call with them because I want to hear their heart. And that's the heart that's why I'm able to articulate their story so well, because I kind of know the hearts of the authors. So just really just go through Google, check how many publishers are in your area, just go through them, kind of gauge them out, hear what's important to them, and check if those goals are similar to yours. Because, for instance, you could be publishing your book to have people just read it and be changed, or you could be publishing your book to make money. That is okay. But just make sure that your vision and your publisher's visions are aligned, or at least that you are both aware of each other's visions in that. So with us, I'll tell you about our process. So if you have a book that's already written, the best advice I can give you is email it to us. Don't send your book to a person via WhatsApp. It's so much easier for me, not me as a person, but it's so much easier for a human being to steal your work if you send it via WhatsApp than if you email it. So if you email it, there's paper trail. There's so much protection for you as an author. There's also records of everything that has been said and agreed upon. So you would email your manuscript and then we would review it and give you feedback. One other thing you need to make sure of is that there is a contract and that you understand the contract. What is expected from you? What are you getting out of your publisher? And how long is this process going to take? Because it does take quite a long time to produce a good quality book. And if I can advise you, just 5 cents on that note, don't rush your book, because Ace Molloy, one of my favorite authors, once said in conversation that sometimes time is the best gift that an author can be given, because if you have a deadline that you're pushing like that, you might just miss something. You might just miss content that would have made your book 10 times better, or you might just put something in there that does not belong in the book. And we've seen that even with these books that we've been working on. Some of them took less time, some of them took longer. And some of them, even when we were done, like Eyethu can attest to this, even when we were done with one of the books, we got to a point where we were like, no, let's change this. Let's change the title. Let's remove this poem. Let's replace the scripture. So time is your best gift. I would say be patient with your publisher, but be stern and be firm to say, okay, these are the expectations that I have. Can they be met? And also just, allow the process to unfold. But the most important things I'll tell you is email your manuscript. Don't mail it. Nobody has time for that. Don't mail it. Email it, and make sure there's a contract, and make sure all the finances are declared upfront and that you know everything that's expected of you. So the best advice that I can give you right now, is we're sitting here as Mashile, who is from Perfect Life Publications, is if you have a book that you've already written, send it to us. Let us advise you. Let us tell you, is your book ready? I think there's only a few answers a publisher can tell you: that you don't have a book, or that your book is not yet ready, or that your book is ready. But even when your book is ready, there is still quite a process and a long journey of work that needs to go into that. And if you don't have a manuscript yet, which is something that happens a lot, if you just have a book idea, my best advice to you is start writing. If you don't know where to start recording your story. I feel like people need to start paying me for this advice, because this is way too good advice. Like, I promise you, take your phone, open your voice recorder, and just start wherever your story starts in your mind. Start speaking through this as if you are narrating the story and telling it to someone. Record it. Whenever you run out of words, just pause it, title that part 1 until part however many hundreds you can get to. And then when you are done, you have your whole story. So now you can start refining it. You can start deciding, I don't want this part in my book. I don't want this part to be known, or I want this part to sound different. But you have your whole book. So all that's left is for you to transcribe it and write it. So that's a lot that I've said already. And like I said, we are out of time. So the big announcement, drum roll please. So like I said at the beginning, this is the second of a 3-part event series. The first one was a conversation on women in writing. The second, which you've just witnessed, was the launch of 5 books by 4 young Black women. And that makes me so proud to be part of this historical moment. But wait for it. We are making history yet again. We will be hosting, I have never heard of this before, so I will be bold enough to say we will be hosting the first ever virtual writing conference for women. It is literally strictly women writers, from script writers, ghost writers, transcribers, copywriters, writers for TV, and book authors. So every kind of woman writer you can think of, we will try to get and pack them into a conference that is strictly for women. And this makes me so excited. It literally blesses my heart that we are part of making history in this sense. If anybody hosts theirs before February next year, just know that we had the idea first. And ours will be, I believe, on the 2nd of Feb in 2022. So yeah, be on the lookout for registration, notifications and posts on our page. We have quite a number of partners that are coming on board, so please be patient for about a week or 2 while we finalize all the groundwork, and we will be sharing this with you very soon. And I'm so proud to be a part of this. I cannot tell you how much. But this is just for women to see that it is possible for you to do it, but also for us to have conversations about careers and writing without having to compete with the competing voices. Of course, there's a place for men in literacy. There's a place for men everywhere in the world, and there will be some men who are coming on board to teach us and share with us their journeys. But this is for us to equip ourselves and create the kind of narrative that we want to kind of leave for future generations as women. So yeah, be on the lookout for the HERstory Writers virtual conference. And like I said, first ever virtual writing conference strictly for women from across the world, from across different writing disciplines. And I am so excited. But I'm going to leave y'all to have a beautiful Saturday. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time for chatting to us. Let's keep the conversation going. The comment section is still open. So please let us know your thoughts and everything. But yeah, from me and for the Perfect Love team, God bless you. We love you, but God loves you more. And I really pray that your story unfolds the way that God intended for it to be. And yeah, goodbye.